let's look at an example of adding and subtracting numbers that have decimals. If I have this addition problem, I can see that I have different numbers of digits in both problems. This is laid out horizontally. For me, it helps if I lay it out vertically. So I have 70.6 and 28.271. If I have this number, I need to be careful where I put it when I'm lining it up vertically. I need to make sure each column is lined up appropriately. So 2 is in the tens column, and 7 here is in the tens column. So I'm going to go ahead and line up the 2 underneath the 7. 8 is in my ones column, so I can line that up in my ones column. I'll line up my decimal, and then I'll line up my tenths column. Now if I look here, my first number doesn't have hundredths column. It's okay, I'm still going to line up my 7 in my hundredths column, and I'm going to line up my 1 in my thousandths column. I can go ahead and set up my problem. Because my first number is missing these two places, I'm going to go ahead and use a 0 to represent each of those columns. And now I'm going to add as if I would a regular addition problem, and the decimals, the only difference really is that I will line up my final answer with the decimal as well, keeping each column space. 1 plus 0 is 1, 7 plus 0 is 7, 6 plus 2 is 8. I've lined up my decimal. 0 plus 8 is 8, and 7 plus 2 is 9. So I can see that my sum is 98.871. Almost the same as a regular addition problem. I just have to check that my decimals are lined up. How about if this were a subtraction problem? It would operate the same way. So, like the previous example, I'm going to go ahead and write my first number, and then I'm going to subtract my second number, making sure that the columns, just as before, are lined up. And similarly, I'm going to make sure I represent the missing columns with zeros. Okay. 1 minus 0. Excuse me, 0 minus 1. I can't do that, so I need to borrow from the previous column. I still can't do that, so I need to borrow from the previous column. So I'm going to go ahead and change my 6 to a 5, and I'm going to change my 0 to a 10, so now I can borrow, but that 10 will have to change to a 9 so that I can turn this guy and make it a 10. So now I can do 10 minus 1 is 9, 9 minus 7 is 2, 5 minus 2 is 3. Keeping my columns lined up, I can put in my decimal. 0 plus 8, excuse me, 0 minus 8, I can't do that now. So similarly, I have to borrow from my tens column, making this a 6, which in turn makes this a 10. And I have 10 minus 8 is 2, and 6 minus 2 is 4. So I have my difference. And that's about it. So just remember, when you're adding and subtracting with decimals, you have to make sure each column is lined up with its similar column.